Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Irving Park Garden Club July meeting on climate change. I'm Claudia Hine, and I'm so excited that we have this opportunity to learn more about this important topic, which we originally had scheduled for our April meeting. Our speaker tonight is Natalie Lichtenberg, who is a research scientist and climate reality leader, and Natalie will explain a little bit more about that in a moment. If you have any questions for Natalie, you can type them in the chat feature at any time during the presentation, and we'll get to as many as we can. So this is the Irving Park Garden Club. I hope you all have your wine ready. And I'm going to turn it over to Natalie now.
Okay, here we go.
Doesn't matter. It's okay.
So hey everybody, my name is Natalie Lynn Lichtenberg, and like Claudia mentioned, I'm a climate reality leader, which means that I did train with Al Gore in 2015 in Miami. Here we learned all about climate change. It was a 4-night, 3-day seminar that we all attended, and we got to learn all the nuts and bolts about climate change. We also got access to all the information, and we currently are constantly keeping in touch with him and learning the newest technology, or the newest information. So my stuff is always very current. So this year we celebrated in April the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. Welcome, it's a time for lasting change and sustainable actions. In this presentation, I will share with you some of the basics about climate change, the science behind it. From there, we're going to go into some of the effects. I will give you tons of solutions, and then I'm also going to connect it to gardening and things that we can do in our daily lives. You guys can't hear my sound. I'm just sharing a video of a great horned owl that I filmed this spring. It's actually sitting on a nest with babies, and this is one of the babies here. So I just wanted to share some of the beauty of nature, the beauty of life. This was my first time seeing the great horned owls, especially so up close. This was up in the, what is that area? Up by, God, I can't think of the city, but it's more southwest. St. Charles, that's where it's from. So I just think the beautiful eyes on this bird, this is one of the babies, its eyes are so yellow. And yeah, it's just so at peace there. Enjoying the breeze. It was pretty cold outside. This was actually back in March, early April, so. And there you really see the eyes. So traveling to faraway places, my horizons, my senses are opened up. As humans, we often feel on top of the world. This all changed for me upon visiting the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust in Kenya. I found myself surrounded by elephants, so peaceful, so serene, so intelligent. I am humbled, I have been made clean, I have seen greatness. For me, this represents that we are all connected, nature, humans, and you know, experiences like this really make me appreciate working for climate change and trying to, you know, slow down the effects of it in any way that we can. So my personal story is from when I was about, this is a picture of when I was like, I'll say 10 or 11 years old. My parents, I'm an only child, and my parents would take me on vacation every summer. And here we are in the Western states, it's probably Colorado or something like that, and we're at a rest stop. My favorite flower is the black-eyed Susan, and here I am just about to pick one of the flowers. And my dad yelled at me very, very loudly, and, you know, he was very upset with me, you know, please don't pick the flowers, you know, just observe them, appreciate them, but don't touch, don't disturb nature. So that was a very, poignant memory in my mind, and it really helped to set the pace of my life that I would work to preserve nature. The sky is not a vast and limitless expanse the way it appears to us as we stand on the ground and look up. In reality, there is just a thin shell of atmosphere surrounding the planet. So here is the basic science of climate change. This has been understood by scientists since the 1800s. Energy from the sun comes to Earth in the form of light. It is absorbed by the Earth and warms it. Some of the energy is radiated from the Earth in the form of heat. Some of that outgoing heat is trapped by the atmosphere, which is a good thing. It has kept our planet in a stable temperature. Now, however, we have been thickening the atmosphere by filling it with heat-trapping pollution. More heat energy is trapped, and it is warming our planet at unprecedented rates. There are many sources of human-caused global warming or climate change pollution, such as agricultural practices, forest burning, transportation, and many others. But the main source and cause of the rising global temperatures we are seeing today is the burning of fossil fuels. On a global basis, more than 90% of all extra heat energy trapped by our atmosphere is going into the ocean. This heat makes ocean-based storms like hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones stronger and more destructive. Half of the increase in global ocean heat content has occurred in just the last 20 years. So this is just a graph of the global heat, ocean heat content since the 1960s. Extreme precipitation events have produced more rain and become more common since the 1950s in many regions around the world, including much of the US. I know here in Chicago area, we're seeing heavier, longer periods of downpours, really heavy downpours, especially in the spring, where we're having more flooding events. This has been challenging our farmers locally with the ability to plant and produce crops. They're having to plant their crops later, and then this has an effect on our food supply and prices because now the growing season is going to be shorter because the plants are getting in later in the spring. Our sewer systems in our area, which are all underground tubes, have now been deemed too small to handle the amount of water entering our drainage system. Sometimes people wonder how global warming can be blamed for causing more precipitation and flooding, and at the same time, it causes more drought. This is why I prefer to call it climate change. The extra heat trapped by rising levels of greenhouse gases actually leads to both. And as the climate changes, precipitation patterns are also changing, leaving some places with less rainfall than before. I just want to interject here that I know a lot of times now in the winters, we're getting these long periods of polar vortexes where it's very extremely cold. And that's because the jet stream is actually becoming more wavier. So it used to go in a gentle pattern like this, but now it's going up and it's going lower. So that's why those temperatures are coming down lower, and it's also going slower. So that's why those colder temperatures now are staying for longer periods. So, and that's just due to what we're doing to our atmosphere and how it's changing the jet stream of the air that surrounds our planet. Higher temperatures also have a direct effect on the incidence and severity of wildfires. Here we see the number of large fires corresponds closely to years with higher average spring and summer temperatures. Today, the fire season in the Western US is more than 100 days longer than it was in the 1970s. So I don't know why you guys cannot hear my sound, but this flooding occurred in Miami Beach, Florida on a sunny day with no rain. High tides now regularly flood the streets of Miami Beach, as well as several other coastal cities around the world. This situation will only get worse as sea levels continue to rise. So this is my video actually from last summer. The flooding hits closer to home as these increases in rain lead to Lake Michigan water levels rising so much that beaches, waterfronts, and pathways will have to be reinvented soon in the future to adapt to the higher lakefront shoreline. So I actually, I just videoed this. I was taking a bike ride on that very path that is filled with rain. So it's kind of like riding your bike on the beach, but it's not really the beach. So we now risk losing up to 50% of all land-based species in this century. And this is just based on climate change. So obviously we're losing species based for other reasons as well, but we're focusing on the one thing. This is an endangered golden poison frog. Climate change, along with other factors such as ecosystem loss, is contributing to the worst extinction event since the extinction of the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. So now we're going to talk about some crops. Heat stress is now beginning to decrease crop yields from rice, corn, and soybeans. So these crops are getting in the soil later, and now they're also having decreased yields due to the heat. Exposure to high levels of carbon dioxide also decreases the nutrient value within these staple items, such as rice, wheat, and soy. So, I mean, that's something we don't even see, but obviously our bodies are gonna know the difference. So in addition to climate change, wildlife is suffering immensely from our lack of respect and overall consumption. So this is just a movement that I followed called Extinction Ends Here, and it's really to help the wild animals. In basic human usage of resources and all life on Earth, we're disrupting the balance. Disrupted ecosystems lead to population crashes. The consumption of our resources leads to a broken system. We all have our niche, our place to live, the web of life that we survive in. Gross consumption of wildlife through wildlife trafficking, wildlife markets for human consumption lead to such infectious agent issues such as COVID-19. The balance of life is just that, it's balanced. By intermixing so heavily in such ways, viruses that would not normally come anywhere near us are now finding new ways to thrive within us. These are called the novel new zoonotic diseases. Climate change is a medical emergency. Infectious diseases, heat stress, air pollution, and waterborne diseases are all influenced by a changing climate and not in our favor. So an example, the main mosquito that spreads Zika and dengue and yellow fever is now covering a wider range in a warmer, wetter world. In warmer temperature, the virus incubates faster and mosquitoes breed more and are able to transmit the disease longer. The health impacts of the climate crisis are often overlooked, but will affect millions of people. So I'm going to try to play this short clip and see if you guys can hear it. If not, then I'm going to try to take it to YouTube.
There's an answer on the chat for how to turn on your sound.
Okay.
Yeah, so go to the bottom of your screen and you'll see a green share button. Click the green share button.
Yeah.
And you should see a checkbox for sharing the sound in your computer. Do you see that?
Where is that at?
So did you go to the bottom of your screen and you select the green share button?
Yeah, that's selected.
And then, so I know that you're already sharing, but you have to go back to that option by clicking share. And then you'll see a different options of like which screen to share. And then at the bottom, you'll see a check box about sharing the sound from your screen.
I think I got it. So let's try this.
All right, great, thanks.
Dear humankind, thank you for being a superhost.
So that's not working.
Oh,
That was working.
We were getting the sound.
Oh, okay, because I don't hear it, so that's fine.
yeah.
Here you go.
Dear humankind, thank you for being a superhost. I never imagined I'd have the opportunity to jump to a species as abundant as you. Most viruses only get to know their original host animal. Many exist entirely in the humid understory of a remote rainforest. We viruses are kept in check by healthy environments with diverse and abundant wildlife. But when you rip forests apart and capture billions of animals to feed your insatiable appetite for flesh and false cures, you bring viruses like me out of our natural quarantines. You introduce us to new hosts, like you. A superhost of 8 billion individuals and counting. A walking, flying, swimming, human meat market. You make up 1/3 of all mammals on Earth by weight. The animals you grow to feed yourselves outweigh all the wild mammals and birds on the planet. As you drive our natural wildlife hosts to extinction, you throw us life rafts bigger than the Titanic. Why wouldn't I jump? As sinister as I may seem, it is not in my interest to wipe out my hosts. We all need other life to thrive. So if this sickness in your bodies opens your eyes to the deeper sickness in our shared planet, it will be to all our benefit. But my big question to you is this: am I enough? If apocalyptic fires aren't enough, if vanishing glaciers aren't enough, if super hurricanes aren't enough, is the cold shadow I cast across the lives of you and your loved ones enough for you to finally confront the prospect of your own extinction? Only you, humankind, can choose to be the cure to the deeper sickness. Only you can choose to nurture the ancient oceans, forests, and grasslands that nurture you, to bring back the chorus of birds and monkeys to silent rainforests, and to make wise choices every day in what you consume and how you live. By protecting nature in all its wild and wonderful forms, you protect yourselves. As the earth stops to take a collective deep breath, you have a rare opportunity to reimagine and redefine a new future. So tell me, what future do you choose? Dear humankind,
Okay, what about change? Of course, the Paris Agreement was a start, a breakthrough. Every country in the world, 195 of them have agreed. And yes, President Trump said he wanted to withdraw, but a lot of people don't realize that under the law, the first day the US could legally withdraw from the Paris Agreement happens to be the day after the 2020 presidential election. That means that the decision is not up to Donald J. Trump, it's up to us, it's in our hands, if we do what is necessary. Another provision that is not as widely known is if there is a new president, I should say when there is a new president, they just have to give 30 days notice and we're right back in the Paris Agreement. And this is an agreement that is steadily being strengthened because next year is the so-called review and ratchet year, when every nation upgrades its commitments. And you guys can all hear me, correct? All of these threats, including many we haven't even covered here, and the fact that the World Economic Forum says climate change is the #1 threat to the global economy, help to answer the question, must we change? So, must we change? Yes. Can we change? We have the solutions at hand, which is very exciting and positive. It is human nature to hide from big problems, but the reality is that we already have all the answers that we need. We should excitedly and passionately run at all of them. The climate crisis has already been solved. We already have all the facts and solutions. All we have to do is wake up and change. That was stated by Greta Thunberg. Consider that global warming, climate change is happening for all of us, inspiring us to change and reimagining everything we make and do. We begin to see and live life in a different world. We take 100% responsibility and stop blaming others. We see climate change not as an inevitability, but as an invitation to build, innovate, and effect change, a pathway that awakens creativity, passion, and genius. This is not a liberal nor conservative agenda. This is a human agenda. So for anybody that's willing to, or wanting to read more, I highly suggest this book by Paul Hawkins called Drawdown, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming. So just to highlight this book a little bit, it lists and discusses the top 100 actions that could be taken to help combat climate change. They are ordered in terms of tons of CO2 equivalents or carbon dioxide that would be kept out of the atmosphere if they were undertaken. The brief summation of this, of the top 100 solutions, 80 of them are here and now, 20 more soon on the way. Total cost of implementation over 30 years equals $29 trillion. Total savings over 30 years is $74 trillion. Implementation changes the way we do business from exploitation of to working with nature. So maybe if somebody's watching this and they're interested, this is, you wanna maybe take a picture of this screen. It just has the 100 solutions to reverse climate change, from transportation to land use, food, etc. They're conveniently categorized by topic. There's something for every major problem solution. What really inspires you? What really makes you mad? What skills do you have to put those things together? Work on that. For me, I love the earth and all its inhabitants, all of them. I am livid at the way the fossil fuel industry has trashed it, as if the resources were just there for greedy consumption, regardless of the death and destruction often left in its path. I am a passionate advocate, pardon me? I am a passionate advocate for solar and clean energy. I am an eternal optimist. I am a great communicator, taking complex material and getting others excited about it. My path is wildlife conservation, which means protecting habitat as is. What is your path? This is just something for you guys to think about after this presentation. Write it down, do some description, either as a hobby, career, volunteering opportunity. What playground treats you best or draws you in? Oprah Winfrey once said she can do many things because she has many people. But do one thing all in, burn the boats. Top 10 solutions. Most of these are all easy things that don't require high tech or high dollar investments. One of the things we don't think about is refrigerant management, especially in third world countries. You know, with food, you need a refrigerant. We all have refrigerators here and everything is, working, but in other places they don't have those opportunities. Also, our refrigerant management does take up a lot of resources. Other top 10 solutions include wind turbines, reduced food waste, a plant-rich diet, enhancing tropical forests, educating girls or women, family planning, solar farms, silvopasture, and rooftop solar. Malala is an example of one person working on one thing effectively, the education of girls. So number 3 and number 4 are things that every person on earth could do. No government required, no upfront investment, perhaps, except for perhaps some cookbooks or compost bins. So this is just my little slide that I put together, my random ideas for things that we can do to help curb climate change. Eat vegan, bathe and shower only when necessary. Obviously, take these with a grain of salt. So, because maybe I'm a little bit different than others. Laundry, do when truly needed. Air dry outside as weather permits. Toilet use, if you can. If it's yellow, let it mellow. Electricity, turn off and unplug when you're not using it. No standby features. Refrain from heavy usage appliances like hair dryers. Batteries, use rechargeable whenever possible. Drain battery almost to zero before recharging. Obviously, reusable bags. Buy products only that are in sustainable packaging, whether it's reusable or at the very least recyclable. For example, toothpaste. And that drive when necessary, pick your routes. One of the big things I really try to focus on is when I purchase my products to make sure that they are in sustainable packaging, or no packaging. So like my vegetables and stuff, I just take to the checkout counter as is. I do have the reusable vegetable bags if I want to use those. Just little things like that really make a difference in your waste. So this is some low impact living checklists. Planting herbs and veggies, shampoo bars, etc. This is just another thing that people can take a picture of the screen if they want, or something like that, and just keep it as a resource. I think a lot of these are for women. I'm seeing some makeup stuff. So, bulk shopping, use your own containers. I don't even know if we have bulk shopping right now, but I hope we get it back soon. Using towels and hankies instead of disposable Kleenex and paper towels. Your power is in your dollar, so buy wisely. Clothing made of sustainable materials such as bamboo, hemp, or even recycled plastic. Choose item based on how eco-friendly the packaging is, and watch all the ingredients on the ingredient list for animal products, such as animal products or products that harm animals, such as palm oil. So let's continue to go on to some solutions. Change seems impossible until it's done. During the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, no one saw the future of what it would turn out to be today. And it doesn't take long. Take the automobile, for example. In early 1900, only one car is in the photo, but look at 1913. So these are only 13 years apart on the same street. And look at the change in the number of cars. Green energy progress. 19 years ago, the best projections were that wind energy would reach 30 gigawatts by 2010. Well, we've exceeded that now by 20 times over. Wind power's rapid growth in recent years is a testament to falling prices, improving technologies, increased competition, and strong incentives, but it also reflects typically overly conservative expert forecasts of renewable energy growth. Lots of technologies, so I'll only go over a couple of them. Other clean energy solutions. Waste to energy. This is the incineration of waste into ash, which is then filtered. Filtered material is then sorted and either recycled or put in a landfill. This strategy is better than the landfill alternative, which the state-of-the-art facilities are employed. Their impact on greenhouse gases is positive when compared to landfills by eliminating the creation of methane. The United States has refrained mostly from this technology due to its debates, namely that of trace amounts of pollution being formed, as well as having perverse effects on recycling and composting. Thought of as a bridge solution, moving us away from fossil fuels in the near future, but not a part of the clean energy future, it is considered a regret solution, having a positive impact on overall carbon emissions, while its social and environmental costs are harmful and high. So they're actually looking to put one of these in Hoffman Estates, and it's still under debate and under looking into a contract. But from using some of this waste, they can actually make gasoline from it and reuse that fuel. So nuclear, lots of inherent risks and flaws including accidents and waste disposal. I am not a fan of this. So huge upstart costs, as well as issues with licensing, permits, and financing, especially in the US. In China, plants are going up left and right and quickly due to having far less red tape and going through that red tape to get these nuclear plants put in place. In a world of inexpensive renewables, nuclear is becoming less and less favorable. My favorite and most useful technology being worked on right now is grid flexibility. So as you know, all of our electricity is on a grid. Kind of like our blood vessel system in our body, we need to be able to input different clean energies into the grid based on the timing and location of supply, and being able to store it and later transport it when and where needed. So these are just some of the things that are being worked on right now to kind of, incorporate more of that wind and especially solar energy that we're starting to see more and more of in our areas. According to Drawdown, by 2050, 80% of renewable energy generation could be a reality. With many grids around the world, renewable is sourcing 20 to 40% of those energy needs. Renewable sources in tandem with more flexible grids will make the global energy transition possible. While solar and wind garner a lot of attention, flexibility is the means for renewables to become a dominant form of energy on our planet. So wind power, fossil fuel generated electricity requires massive amounts of water for cooling, withdrawing even more water from agriculture. So wind energy uses 98 to 99% less water than fossil fuel. Ongoing cost reduction will make it the least expensive source of energy, perhaps within a decade. So global wind energy capacity, it's an exponential curve, quite dramatic. It's producing the cheapest electricity available in many parts of the world. Although wind energy technologies have been around for a long time, it is only in recent years that installations have really started to take off around the world. Clearly, what was once a niche technology is now firmly in the mainstream. So here is onshore wind cost. The cost been coming down dramatically. And this is even before the offshore deployments. So as you know, some of these wind turbines are being installed in the ocean or directly on shore. I don't know necessarily how I feel about that, but I'm all for getting away from fossil fuels. In Texas, there are a number of utilities that now have a new rate plan. You can use all the electricity you want from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. for free because it costs them more money to shut down the turbines than it does to give it away. In some places, it has negative prices. They will actually pay you to take their electricity. So this is a good sign, right? And hopefully more states and cities will start seeing these kind of incentives going on. Globally, wind could supply worldwide electricity consumption 40 times over. Let's talk a little bit about solar. The story is even more dramatic. 17 years ago, the best projections were that we would be able to add 1 gigawatt per year by the year 2010. When that year 2010 arrived, we beat that projection by 17 times over. Last year, we beat that projection by 109 times over. Solar is really taking off. Every day, enough sunlight strikes the earth to supply a year of energy for all of humanity. So this is a solar panel on a rural roof in Nimyol, South Sudan. This is an example of how in many countries there's no universal grid, but we are seeing consumers and businesses leapfrog old technologies and installing solar panels in places that have long been denied access to electricity. So this is kind of just a win-win for all. One of my concerns was the solar effects on wildlife, such as small household roof panels and large solar farms. The presence of PV panels on a roof, whether a house, office building, or other structure, does not disrupt wildlife habitat. It takes advantage of an already built space. Large solar farms can have more of an impact, taking up land that is vital to wildlife habitat. In the western United States, these large-scale installations are often placed in desert areas that receive a lot of sunlight. However, these same desert lands are often habitat for birds and other wildlife. It's important for installers to consider solar farm placement and avoid uprooting habitat wherever possible. In fact, some states are working with conservation groups to choose locations for solar farms that will minimize harm to wildlife. So Audubon's California works with the Desert Renewable Energy Conservation Plan to help place these solar farms. So I'm just giving you guys both sides of the coin so that you can be fully informed. Another problem with large solar farms is that birds sometimes mistake the glossy blue expanse of solar panels for bodies of water and try to land on them. So this is called a lake effect. You know, we can see that too when we look, you know, way ahead on a sunny day, we see kind of like a water appearance at the horizon line. Birds have been found dead, wounded, or stranded at several solar projects in the desert. The lake effect puts water birds in particular risk because some species can't take off from the ground. They require a running start on the water's surface. So some developers are adding special patterns to their panels or using other strategies to reduce the risk of crash landings. And hopefully, I'm not aware, but hopefully there's not too many water birds in like a desert-like landscape where they're installing these. Green energy progress. Look for example of renewable energy. Wind energy was predicted to provide 30 gigawatts of electricity worldwide by 2010. As of 2019, we have exceeded that prediction by 22 times over. Over 160 global companies have made a commitment to go 100% renewable. Businesses around the globe will play a big role. Apple is among those that has already achieved that. Many others are very close to it. So here's just some of the logos such as Kellogg's, IKEA. Yeah, I mean, you can read them here for yourself. There's quite a bit, and probably more and more being added to this list every day. So let's talk about gardening. That's why we're all here, right? What is one simple thing that we can do as gardeners to combat climate change? Plant natives. So this is a photo. I actually do raise them on our butterflies. As extensive as the region's nature's preserves are, they are not large enough or connected enough to meet the needs of our remaining songbirds and butterflies and insects. Further, these birds and butterflies cannot survive on the European and Asian trees that cover so much of our suburban landscape. They need native trees and native landscape because of ancient relationships and intricate food requirements that is all a part of our DNA and the web of life. Some migrating warblers, for instance, time their spring return to this region to coincide with the emergence of little noticed and beneficial insects that in turn time their emergence to coincide with the new growth of native oak leaves. In another example, hickories have been documented to support over 200 species of butterflies and moths. Ginkgos, on the other hand, support 3. Cultivars and ornamentals can perform beautifully in the landscape, but often lack the features of true natives needed by wildlife. Slight alterations to nectars, blooms, fruits, thorns, leaves, and roots can interfere with critical needs. Natives also provide a wise investment compared to delicate or high-maintenance cultivars. They are well adapted to our climate and once established require little watering and no fertilizer. Many are beautiful with gorgeous palettes of autumn colors and silhouettes that help to define this region's landscape. When seeking to improve the value, beauty, and functionality of your landscape, native trees can offer outstanding benefits. We're going to go on to more things that we can do. Something that you can even start doing today. So, and that is of the plant-based diet. which can be tied hand in hand to gardening, as we can plant many of the herbs, vegetables, and everything that we need to support our planet and also support our diets. If you leave here remembering anything, I hope it is this: cutting down on our meat consumption, particularly on beef. It's the number one way each of us daily can cut down on our carbon footprint with our food choices. Plant-based diet or vegan diet. I'm just putting this information out there. Raising livestock accounts for nearly 15% of global greenhouse gases emitted each year. Some say up to 50%. Overconsumption, eating too much animal protein, has been shown to lead to certain cancers, stroke, and heart disease, also thereby raising healthcare costs. Altering meat consumption patterns is critical to achieving various goals, including hunger around the world, healthier lives, water management, terrestrial ecosystems, and of course, climate change. Eating a plant-rich diet is a win-win for all. A lighter carbon footprint reduces emissions, leads to less chronic diseases, reduces animal sufferings, and opens opportunities to preserve land that might otherwise be used for livestock. Recent research suggests that few climate solutions of this magnitude lie in the hands of individuals or as close to us as the dinner plates. Here's another screen that maybe you want to take a picture of. It's resources for switching over to a more plant-based diet, both with recipes, ideas of what to eat and stuff like that. So I was vegetarian for a long time. I was still eating a tiny bit of dairy. And in September, I did switch over to a completely vegan diet. And I can tell you, as somebody that's always in pain, my joint pain and sleeping and my inflammation in my body is non-existent. So I'm just giving you my personal, what do you call that, thing that happened to me. So other ways that food management can negate climate change. Restoration of farmlands. This is something that I recently learned about. Common agricultural practices deplete fertility, erode soil, and cause compaction, etc. of the soil. Farmlands are often abandoned and left unused as farmers move on to greener pastures. Repurposing these abandoned farmlands can be costly and labor-intensive, but would help to eliminate greenhouse emissions. Restoration by turning them back into native habitat, which is my preferred idea, the establishment of tree farms, or instituting regenerative farming methods. Regenerative farming methods are now very appealing, and some people are working on creating ways on making this method more economically feasible. Currently, there are few financial incentives to move forward on any of these ideas, so we need more financial incentives. So other ways that food management can negate climate change. The food we waste contributes to 8% at least of the carbon released into the atmosphere. In low-income nations, refrigeration and storage are at the biggest reason for food waste. In high-income areas, food waste occurs at the retail and the consumer level. The best before dates are unregulated and misleading. In high-income locations, food is selected for its appearance so that no one is selling ugly produce. It's very, very sad. Of course, we have the over-serving at restaurants we're all familiar with, the forgotten leftovers. Countries like Italy and France have instituted laws mandating that supermarkets donate unused food to charities, to composting, or to being used as animal feed. Composting is not focused on locally, but together we can create a movement. So what I do is I just throw my food waste out my door and under a bush. So I try to only buy what I'm going to eat. So I don't have a lot of food waste unless it's like an apple core or something. And I just throw that under my bush. So, and do I get a lot of animals that visit? It's not too bad. So the number one resource of all is human resiliency. Lead. How many times, almost daily, do I have people sending me texts, pictures, whatnot, of pictures of wildlife they saw, a recycling issue, or how they were sustainable? I always get those thought of you text or you're rubbing off on me messages, and this is a good thing. The one thing you can do every day is lead by example. At the store, refrain from using a single-use plastic bag, and then if you're crazy like me, you can insert your environmentally friendly message. It didn't happen unless you posted, feels silly. Yeah, I always insert an environmentally message when I'm at the counter. If they ask for a bag, I say, no, I'm going hashtag plastic free or something like that. But yes, like I was saying, it doesn't happen unless you post it. And if you feel silly, don't. People are watching you, your friends, your family, any of your connections on social media. I don't know why, but humans find it interesting to watch others. So if you take a picture of yourself using your composting or something like that, it does have profound effect on the people that are watching you. So ways to keep cheerful is to look for progress. Get yourself in a good place. Do self-care. Spend time with those you love, friends and family. Have hobbies, sports, nature, music, dance. You must take care of your joy. Exercise, sleep, eat, learn, all proven to be key factors to success and happiness. If we keep ourselves happy, we will be able to take care of our planet easier. Seek inspiration from the people around you. Fill your news feed with good news. I know that's been really hard to do lately, so. In her TED Talk, Greta Thunberg observed that it is in the conclusions that speakers remind us all for the need for hope. Borrowing from her speech, we don't need hope. Hope will maintain the status quo. We need action. Action will bring hope, but we must act now. Volunteer, protest, scream and yell. Find your people. Know you are not alone. Tell your personal story of energy and inspiration and speak up. We are not alone. A flock of geese fly in a V formation and get to their destination together. They rotate being in front. An African proverb is, to go fast, go alone. To go far, go together. So like I mentioned, a book I highly recommend is Project Drawdown by Paul Hawken. And together we can write a new ending. Thank you very, very much.
All right.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah, thank you so much, Natalie. I think there are just a couple questions here. If you have a question, you can go ahead and type it in the chat. One of the ones that I don't understand is about the cattle. And it's like it's a natural animal on Earth and it has gas. So it's hard for me to understand how they can create so much havoc.
Well, for one thing, that they are taking so much of the native land just in providing for their needs with their food supply, because that requires other agriculture to provide for their needs. You also need the space for the animals to live. And then, of course, there is the methane production that does add to the carbon dioxide, to the polluting gases adding to our atmosphere. And there is just so many cows on this planet that it is having a major effect. So I don't know how many cows, but our meat industry is a big contributor to our climate situation right now.
I see that.
If I can just interject something, there was a book I read a number of years ago called Diet for a Small Planet. Did you ever hear about it? It probably came out in the 70s.
Uh-huh.
And there was also Recipe for a Small Planet. And Diet for a Small Planet is basically a vegetarian-based concept book, and it talks about how the meat industry was promoted because we had so much land, and they figured out that cows would eat more vegetation than people, and they could sell the cows for more than they could the crops that the cows would eat. So the whole promoting of eating meat and it kind of comes out of this thing from, I think, you know, somewhere in the 1800s. But it's really interesting how this false sense of, you know, needing to eat meat where that came from.
Interesting. I see Pam has raised her hand. Pam, are you unmuted? Can you ask your question?
Well, I just heard on the news a day or two ago that they're gonna feed cows lemongrass to cut down on the methane.
I did see that as well. And I would just say get rid of the cows, like cut down on the cows.
Yeah, there are too many.
Pam also asked a question about, is Miami building walls to stop flooding?
Not that I'm aware of. One of their big problems is that much of their city is built on limestone, which is, as we know, very permeable. So it's really adding to their situation. I don't know exactly what they're going to do to help themselves. I know their government is not very pro climate change or anything sustainable. So they are in a dire situation for sure, for so many reasons nowadays.
Yeah. Thank you.
When you were talking about refrigerant management, do you mean that we're supposed to have refrigerators or not? Or
Well, a lot of the food waste, especially in third world countries, comes because they do not have refrigerants, but also it is a great consumption of our energy that we produce to keep all these foods refrigerated. And like I said, there's a lot of food waste due to wanting to sell pretty produce, or, you know, overserving at the restaurants. So definitely we could cut down on that.
so developed countries should cut down on their refrigeration and undeveloped countries should add to their refrigeration?
I don't know exactly how it would work. We need a better solution to refrigeration, one that's more economically and sustainable. So that's another topic completely on its own to delve into.
Okay.
And I'm sure it's in that project drawdown book. I just would have to read that chapter.
And when you mentioned toothpaste, is toothpaste recyclable? Are some toothpaste recyclable?
Well, I was talking about the packaging of the toothpaste, that they do have. Pardon me?
So which ones are recyclable? Which kind of toothpaste is recyclable, or which kind of container?
They have that containers that are just strictly plastic, or they have, you know, bars or something like that. So there's just better choosing your container for anything that you purchase helps to decrease your waste. I know Whole Foods has a lot of selections, and then also online, there's a lot of, you know, sustainable, earth-friendly solutions.
Yes, I have the bamboo toothbrush.
Yeah.
And I've seen they've got shampoo and conditioner that comes in bars now. It's like a bar of soap instead of the whole plastic
Instead
container.
of in a plastic tube. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I haven't tried it yet, but I have seen them online.
I know somebody that has tried I think it was the Burt's Bees, or was it the Bonners? And they said it was really good. So, next question.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question. I'd love to hear more about everybody's approach to composting. That's something that I'm trying to figure out for my own garden. I have a compost bin that's like disintegrating and need to figure out a different approach. So I'd love to just hear from, you know, multiple people if anybody has a good approach that's really working for them.
I had a tumbler composter that was amazing. And I had a small bin in the house. You know, it was like just a little mini trash can with the pedal thing with a lid. And I'd fill that up with everything that was appropriate. I'd throw it in the tumbler along with grass clippings and leaves and stuff. And I would tumble that. And I'm telling you, it was amazing. It just distilled down into this like black gold. It was great. That I had to get rid of the composter. It finally kind of bit the dust, but when I had it, it was amazing. And if I had another spot for another one, because I kind of reconfigured things, that's what I would get again.
Our building has 2 of the city black sort of beehive shaped things that you could get from the city at one point. They stack up, and they are really worm bins, which is fine. I mean, they don't heat up. We don't turn them over. The worms eat it, and then you dig it out of the bottom.
I heard from somebody once when I was going on a garden walk that you should get 3 different bins, one for like the composting, like the kind of table scraps, one for clippings, and one for a mix. Is there like any reason to have 3 bins, or is that just overkill?
Well, that's in order for you to get the right mixture if you're really going to have a hot compost. So you've got the brown in the one and the green in the other, and you do the mixture, whatever the amount.
ratio is,
I don't know
yeah.
if it's matches or what, but I heard a woman talk once about when the convention was here and there were all the people that had come to demonstrate. She was collecting all the food scraps from like hundreds of people. So that was her green part. Then she went around and collected corrugated cardboard anywhere she could find it. That was her brown part, and mixed it together. But that's to make a hot bin, to get a hot pile.
Got it. Thanks. That's helpful.
Somebody talking?
Check with the Center for Neighborhood Technology. They have composters. They're down on Sacramento and what division or something.
Yeah, I think that's where we got those bins from. We also had for Friends of Kilbourne Park, we had a talk where a guy came and showed us how he did his composting. And his big thing was he chopped stuff up so much that it was compost in like 3 days because it was so chopped up.
The smaller the pieces, the easier it'll compost.
Yep. That's what I keep telling my neighbors who put whole watermelons in our bins, but.
I had a little problem with rats at my bird feeder, so I stopped putting even bird seed out. Not good. I can't hear.
Yeah.
Okay, Emily and Nick are going to be talking about composting in September for our September meeting. So Mary, be sure to attend that one. Or Jen, I'm sorry, be sure to attend that one. I just want to thank, is there anyone else who has any questions? I can't, okay. Thank you so much, Natalie. Thanks to everyone for joining us tonight. Be sure to watch for news about our August hands-on meeting, which will take place August 15th. I hope you had a good time and have a good evening.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was really great. Really appreciate
It was good. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you, Natalie. Bye.
Bye.